Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Torch Snubbers podcast. I'm your host, Colin Connors. I actually don't have a co-host this week, but I am joined by a fantastic panel, including the beautiful Elise Anderson,
Hello.
the always insightful Alex Cash,
Hey.
and the super stern yet fair Jack.
Hi there.
But that's not all who's joining us today. We also have with us the legendary Survivor greatness that is Billy Garcia. Woo!
Hi guys,
Billy, how the hell are you tonight?
I'm doing great. I definitely enjoying this season. Wish I was part of it.
Well, I strongly believe that along with you and John Carroll, you will be on the next second chance ballot.
Oh wow, that would be cool. I like John. He's a cool dude.
John is a cool dude, but you know you got to vote him out before the end, right? Like, you didn't hear that from us, but you kind of did.
I can't admit any of that publicly of who I would vote out and who I'd
Right.
stick it out with.
Well, anyways, it was another fantastic episode of Survivor's Second Chances. And I mean, this has been a very strong season, but I think there's a lot, and I mean a lot to discuss when it comes to the nuances and strategy of this episode. So, right off the bat, I think what I want to bring into light would be that we got Steven's second non-strategic confessional towards the beginning of the episode. He was talking about like the three witches and the kind of the literature and all the other kind of allegorical nonsense, or maybe it's actually not nonsense. But Billy, what do you make of Steven kind of transitioning from someone who's very strategic into almost like this kind of weird poetic being that he is? Like, what is going on with his edit?
I think what we're seeing is a little bit of the podcaster coming out. We're seeing a little bit of his comedy and the things that he does as a podcaster with Rob Cesternino. So I think since he's a natural talent in that area, it was kind of going to waste not seeing him do some of that on the show. And so it was. I think we saw the producers or the editors or whomever is in charge of the edit decide that they want to make sure they get a little bit of that in there.
And that's what I guess I'm gonna ask Alex is, why do you think they have the need to put that in there though?
I think it's because his final tribal speech is going to be rather literary as well.
Ooh, that is a huge assumption. Does anyone else want to back that up, or?
I mean, either as a member of the jury or as a member of the final three.
Okay, you pulled
That's a much safer prediction you got.
A much safer prediction. But do people kind of agree with that? Because for me, Alex, that does provide a little bit of insight, because I've been kind of trying to wrap my head around it. Do people generally agree that either Steven's going to be saying something magical at Final Tribal Council, or he's going to be kind of like the Reed or the other person at Final Tribal Council that makes this huge splash with a speech?
I think if you remember on my season, Stephanie Favor did a little song. She sang "Amazing Grace," and I forget which season it was, but the other Bill that played did a little bit of stand-up comedy. And I think it's just Survivor tends to let people put their talent out there, so long as it's not disruptive to the storyline.
Okay, so what you're saying, Billy, is that this is not necessarily foreshadowing something greater as much as them being like, hey, we got 45 minutes to film, this is kind of interesting.
Yeah, they're taking advantage of a talent.
Okay.
They're so bottom line is, no matter what people, how much people love the game aspect of it, Survivor's a business. It's about making money, and the way they make money is eyeballs.
That's very
and if
true.
somebody has talent, then you got to put it out there so that some eyeballs will just tune in just for the talent.
And I guess what I would say in response to that, it's kind of funny because Survivor has the whole gambit of talent in the terms of it has Steven being super poetic, and then last episode we had Keith being all like, well, I'm going to drive this truck real good and everyone's going to love it. So it appeals to all of America. Now,
Exactly.
Speaking of appealing to all of America, let's talk about something very strategic that all of America doesn't care about. And I want to talk to Jack about this at first. So, there was this assumption that another hidden immunity idol would be put into place because there was one played at last night's tribal council. However, in previous seasons like South Pacific, once one person had a hidden immunity idol, they wouldn't hide anymore. Do you think it is better for the show to have multiple hidden immunity idols, or do you think Survivor's a better game when there's just that one hidden immunity idol?
I think like having a static amount of idols, so there's only a certain amount per season, is a good thing. Because if they keep getting them played and having them brought back in, it gets pretty cluttered in terms of strategy and who's going to be immune and who's not, and not just having it be a one-time huge impact on the game. So if they're getting played all the time, it might dilute how magical they are per season. So I think having just a couple per season or just having that certain amount would be a good idea.
Well, and because my, I guess, assumption about idols up until the past couple seasons has been, if two tribes merged and there was two hidden idols played and one of those two was played, no more would get played unless no more would get added to the game unless both of them were gone. And then even then, up until once the final five passed, there would be no more idols in play. But that seems to be completely out the window. So Billy, I have to ask, as a former Survivor player, do you like this idea that there could be an infinite amount of idols? Because to me, it almost takes some of the strategy out of the game, knowing that everyone can have an idol.
Yeah, no, I don't like infinite amount of idols, that's for sure. Because let's say the five of us were playing, and let's say one of us played an idol today, and it flipped the game upside down. Then the next episode, let's say Colin, you played an idol, and then at least the episode after that plays an idol, and then that pretty much makes it idol mania, and it takes away from the whole pleasure of watching strategy play out. What I do think is going on, though, in my opinion, is that you have one idol per each tribe, and then the one merged tribe, and that makes it 4 idols. Yeah. And we haven't seen the 4 idols.
And I guess I would say I'm happy as long as there's basically no more idols added. Elise and then Alex. Elise, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just gonna go with this sort of point that we can still hope that there's a static amount of idols. We don't know if they're just adding them every time one gets played, because this could be the merge idol and then we're done. So unless they add another one to the game, that could be it. That's what I'm hoping for, at least.
So you're saying I should calm down a little bit and not declare this season over with all the twists? Because I'm going to go on a twist rant in a little bit. But Alex, do you want to jump in real quick?
The thing I wanted to say is that the extreme case of what happens when there are too many idols in play, this podcast has its roots in the Survivor Chronicles org series, and there was a Big Brother Chronicles game where everyone was given a pocket veto. And during the first round, as soon as the target made it clear that he was going to play it, everybody played the veto at the exact same time, and no one went home during the first week. So weird things can happen.
So what you're saying is that I'm going to extrapolate that too many idols, I think, can be a bad thing, and I think we all agree on that. Mm-hmm. And even Billy does. Okay, so that's good. Maybe this won't be as a contentious episode as I thought. Maybe everyone will just agree with me, and we can all get out of here in a tight 20. Now, I guess the next point of at least let's talk about this real quick. So we spend a good portion of this episode doing the idol hunt, which, you see everybody like digging through trees and like digging up dirt and like fighting bears, trying to find a clue to a hidden immunity idol. Do you think this is a waste of time because we already know the contestants are doing it, or on a personal level, do you actually like watching these idol hunts?
I like watching these idol hunts because when we don't see them, we often just assume, oh, well, Joe's not doing anything, or so-and-so's just sitting on their ass, when they could have been searching for the idol the entire time, and we just didn't know. So I like seeing a little bit of that. I don't want to see it too much because it gets boring just watching people look for shit and not finding it. But a little bit's fine. I like to see it.
That's going to be an episode of Survivor Second Chances 2. It's going to be me and Billy looking for an idol being like, I don't know. Like,
Hey, I have a suggestion for the producers. They really want to make it entertaining. Tie the hidden immunity idol to the back of a chicken and let it go.
I am for that. I think let's say there's an immunity challenge, and then at the very end, just like, oh, and there's going to be a chicken with a hidden immunity idol back at camp. Go. Like, I think that'd be a fantastic way to end a challenge. Okay.
Or let it go in the challenge.
And it could be the same.
Want to see like the Supin-esque spear hunting, just running around craziness.
Oh yeah. Then just because you're going for the idol doesn't mean you get it. The chicken could just be much more able to maneuver than somebody who's been starving for days.
What I love is that if CBS were to listen to this, they'd be like, okay, this is what the fans want. Never mind, we're never listening to the fans again.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Billy, I guess I want to ask you a question about the reward challenge, which is this episode we saw, once again, 2 teams going for a reward. And we just saw this last week, and the one team won, a vacation, all this stuff. Do you find it boring? Because to be frank, I find it boring. That it's kind of like the same reward over and over again. And also, I don't like team rewards because it doesn't have as much drama as when someone picks, who comes along with them. What do you think about that, Billy?
I think they're doing the team reward because a couple of seasons ago people were giving away rewards, and I think this is the way they're kind of countering that move. But I agree with you. I rather there be the drama of picking people. But I also think that you could just simply add the rule that if you want it, you got to keep it.
Very fair. And Jack, I saw your head nodding a lot. Do you want to add in on this?
It was just something I hadn't thought of when Billy talked about how they were trying to force people to keep the rewards and avoid all that giving away reward nonsense. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say.
Well, and I agree completely, Billy. That was kind of a new insight, but it makes sense almost from a production standpoint. You're like, well, people are just going to give away rewards. There's no point of even having the challenges, but if we put them in teams, they have to do it. And I would say, normally I don't like schoolyard picks, but it was Abby that got left out, so does anyone even care?
I care. She's on my team.
Alex and Elise do. Alex, did you want to reiterate on that, or?
Well, I'm okay with picking teams, but I would like. And this is something that somebody on the subreddit suggested, and I second, and I'm bringing to the masses, the dozens of people that watch, that the schoolyard pick should be a secret scene. The schoolyard pick should be a secret scene.
I agree with you on that. Okay, so the one tribe wins reward, and then we got this same confession. Was like, oh my god, I'm surprised there's actually fruit on a Survivor reward. It tastes so good to eat fruit when you're starving. It looks a little bit done it, but I understand why it's there. But then, Elise, once again, we're giving a confessional of Sierra just talking to everyone, being like, hey, we should be in alliance because, we should be in alliance, and this is Survivor, we should be in alliance. And to me, I'm kind of surprised it's working because wouldn't other people in the 8 compare notes and be like, hey, Sierra's trying to make an alliance with everyone? Like, how is this not blown up in her face yet?
Well, I think she has to at least try something, even if it doesn't work. And I think they probably all know that it's, one, from previous seasons, that she's kind of strategic, and two, because I'm sure they all talk, I'm sure they all know she's throwing things out there. But it's still good to talk through your options. Maybe people are like, oh wow, Wigglesworth is really talking to everyone in this big threat to win, or just humoring her. Maybe that's what Tasha was thinking, was just go with it, just
I think
put her off. But
I think it's the group of players that we have. In my season, I tried to do exactly what she did, and I got crucified. Mm-hmm. But this is a completely different group of players, and so this group likes to play their cards close to the vest, and because of that, they don't compare notes too much. They don't want to give away they have a better hand than somebody else in their own alliance.
And you know what? That actually brings up a really good point, because I was actually thinking, and whoever that wants to respond to this can, that I was very surprised that Jeremy didn't at least hint that, hey, we don't, this is how the idol was found, maybe this is how Wentworth found the idol, because they had that little conversation at the beginning of the episode. I'm surprised Jeremy didn't go hey, maybe the idol was at the challenge, but what you said makes a good point, that he's probably just I don't have an idol, what's an idol? And not even going to give his alliance any type of leeway that, hey, maybe this is what's going on. Elise, you want to say something?
I just wanted to say that that's a really good point, and I think that especially when this alliance is so huge that you're not going to be final 8, they have to be looking ahead. There's so many of them that you can't really give too much away to your entire alliance, because there's 8 of them. That's not going to hold.
That's a very good point.
And they're already targeting each other.
Okay. And then, Billy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think Jeremy voiced in a very, very short confessional that kind of flew by the wayside that he's shit scared. He knows he's a target. He knows he's one of the only thing that's keeping him from being the main focus is that Joe's in the game. Mm-hmm. So when you're that shit scared, you're not gonna give away anything. You're not gonna, especially if you have an idol that could save your ass in a pinch. I wouldn't tell anybody.
That's a very good point, Jack. I'm gonna let you jump in all quick. Then we are gonna have to move on.
Yeah, I was talking about it with Jeremy. Even though he had an idol, even though that happened, he was like, I need to find another one. He's that scared that he doesn't feel safe with just one. He wants 100 of them if he could.
I mean, I would like 100 idols, and we are going to talk a little bit more about Jeremy's idols when we get to that. And I guess I want to talk, Alex, with you about something real quick. So we were being told over and over again during that reward challenge that Kelly Wigglesworth, if she made it to the end, she could win. Even though Kelly Wigglesworth has had about 4 confessionals this entire season. And there has been other instances of this, like with Brandon Hance, where everyone said if Brandon got to the end of Survivor South Pacific, he could win. And there's other players like this that apparently if they made it to the end, their huge social presence could win. Why do the editors choose to either ignore these storylines or tone them down so much?
I think that, well, I think in Kelly's case, in the case of CGI Wiggleworth, her social game was not really in the form of, it didn't come with a strategic game that could be, that could fit into the larger storyline. She was just friendly with everyone. And that's the kind of thing that could make for a good character moment, but we don't get as many character moments as we maybe used to. And so that sort of fell by the wayside. And in other cases, such as with Brandon and with Coach in Token Cheens, where he was viewed as a threat, like, even though we get like very caricatured and over the top versions of them, we can still see the aspects of like how their honesty and their integrity, whether it's real or merely projected, comes in. So we see it, but it's not really laid out for us.
And I think that's fair, but I guess, and I'm going to talk with Billy a little bit about this, it just seems like, for the love of God, if Kelly was such a threat to win, give her like 4 extra confessionals, give her something, because I mean, it was something like, oh, Kelly's invisible, to, oh, Kelly's going to win. Billy, and I believe you wanted to hop in on this.
Yeah, we got to remember that these players all know each other. And so if Kelly Wigglesworth is playing like Tina Wesson, where you don't really see her game on the surface, her game is very much a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, put a hand over her shoulder, put a hand on the lap, here's a little bit of my food, that sort of thing. You know, it's these players know each other. They know what Wigglesworth is trying to accomplish by this. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what played out. I think that's what they were trying to express. But I fault the producer on the confessionals not asking the right question, because the question is always included in the answer. So if you want to express something in the confessional, you have to phrase the question correctly. And I think that's what's at fault.
And I do agree with you, because I mean, we can all agree that Kelly Wigglesworth, she was under-edited, especially she was under-edited for someone who, you know, we all thought had a chance to win. Or who always was going to win. Okay, so, the next kind of thing I want to talk about, and Jack, let's talk a little bit about Jeremy. Jeremy now has 2 hidden immunity idols. But I have to say, I'm calling a little bit of shenanigans on that second one. Because the first idol, he had to, like, you know, get it during the challenge when everyone's looking. The second one, it was like, oh, you have to find the idol, but it's going to be at night near a lamp. Come on, that's way less intense. I just want to hear your opinion about the whole Jeremy 2 idol situation, and isn't it kind of shenanigans that even someone could have 2 idols, or what do you think?
So I think it's okay that someone has 2 idols. They can't really prevent that if they're going to put another one in the game. But when he found the clue, I was getting ready for the next challenge of what kind of idol is going to be hidden here. And then when it's like, hey, wake up at night and find a lamp that's completely illuminated in the dark, and your idol is going to be sitting right there. It seemed a little bit too easy. He found the clue, and immediately his idol was pretty much handed to him. I wanted more struggle to be, because we had so much.
I was going to say, I agree, because the other idols were hidden, you know, in very hard ways, that, you know, this one was just like, okay, we're done trying to think of ways to put him on the challenges. Here you go.
Especially since when Kelly and Jeremy were on the first ones, it was really intense, and it really drew the viewer in of, like, how is she going to, like, sneak this idol in when everyone else is watching. And this one, it was just, you found it.
Here you go, here's an idol. Go cry again for Val. Alex, did you want to jump in real quick?
Yeah, I think the way they hid this idol, the producers were taking a gamble that it would take a while, because they said it was all the way back where where the 2 tribes merged, which, you know, it would seem to imply that it was at least partway to halfway between the 2 beaches. So you got that going on, and there's the fact that you had to sneak away from camp, which if someone tried to do that extra sneakily in the middle of the night and bungled it, then that would make for good TV. But Jeremy is too smart for that, and he's just said, I got to go take a dump, guys. And
Exactly.
and so, yeah, it was a risk that didn't pay off.
Okay, and then Billy, you want to chime in on that real quick?
Yeah, I just would have said, since they were making it kind of relatively easy, I would have just put it like in the bottom of a barrel of colored water, so that Jeremy would have to come back and explain, like, why is he all blue, something like that.
Ooh.
I love this idea.
Billy, you're
Yeah.
killing it tonight. So we have the
Okay.
chicken with the idol or the blue colored idol.
Yeah, in blue, submersed in blue tinted water, so that he has to dip his body into the water, and he gets covered in blue water and has to explain himself when he gets back.
That is a dang good idea.
What about the blue covered chicken? We could have that too.
Or
That
blue-colored
blue covered chicken would be awesome.
We're gonna combine all this. But Elise, at the end of the day, all this talk about Jeremy having idols and how Jeremy's getting a very strong edit, is it kind of useless because is Joe gonna mic his way to the end of the season?
I'm not convinced because I feel like Mike had social bonds outside of just winning constantly. Joe, we haven't really seen any of that except for when he's bonding with Wigglesworth, and obviously that didn't end well. We saw Spencer like drawing out a map in like the merge episode, but aside from that, his entire edit has been, I gotta win or else I'm dead. And then with Steven so hardcore against him, that's gonna be his biggest problem. He has a much better chance if he can somehow get rid of Steven before he loses immunity.
So you don't think he's gonna win the next, 8 immunity challenges?
No.
Okay, real quick, I want to pull the room. Does anyone actually think Joe can win the next 8 immunity challenges?
I think if he does, he's gonna Ozzy it, where he'll go to the end, but everybody's like, all right, you're an athlete, but what kind of game do you have? None? You don't win.
Ooh, that's a very good point. Because the thing about Joe's game is, like Elise said, we're not seeing that much of it. So I could see Joe being like, I can go to the end with Jeremy. Jeremy's cool. No one's gonna... that's a very good point, Billy. Does anyone else want to jump in on that?
Pull a woo. Just be like, loyalty. Yeah.
Let me go ahead and let me clear my breath. Let me take a sip of my alcohol.
Yay.
Because I'm about to go on a little bit of a tangent.
Uh-oh.
We get to the immunity challenge, and right off the bat, Jeff says, hey, here's an extra advantage in this game. Personally, I strongly disagree with adding these kind of twists into the game, especially spur of the moment. They go against strategy because, you can never really plan for anything like this, but also, yes, it's exciting that Steven got it because no one would expect him to get the more athletic, twist, hitting the buoy. The fact that he can steal someone's vote, and we're not even really given that many details. Survivor's getting a little crazy, in my opinion. This is kind of becoming more of a Big Brother type thing where suddenly people are getting like, oh, you get an advantage where you get 2 votes, and you can negate 1 vote, and you can cancel a jury member's vote, and you can get a pizza. Like, it's just getting a little too crazy for me. And I understand they want to do it for All-Star seasons, but I really don't want to see these kind of twists in a season of newbies. Because I think, a double vote, a vote steal, a hidden immunity idol, it's going to make it, to where the game's almost not even Survivor anymore. It's just who has the better advantage. So let's talk about that. Is this even a good advantage in Survivor in terms of keeping the game kind of, intact? Anyone can jump in on this.
I'll jump in. I'll
Okay.
say, I think what they were going for, they were expecting like a whole bunch of people to jump out of the challenge and go for the buoy. And only 2 people went, so we didn't get the effect that they were going for.
Mm-hmm.
And then the steal of the vote. I'd rather have a steal of a vote than an extra vote. But
He still gets an extra vote, I believe.
No, yeah, he steals a vote, but it's not like it's like, let's say there's a final 8. It's not like there's 9 votes happening.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'd rather that they steal a vote, but they don't add a vote. What I would have rather have done was to make it really interesting was instead of stealing a vote is maybe have a jury member cast a vote. Like pick a jury member to see if they'll vote with you, and then you have no idea if they're going to vote with you or not. It's a total gamble. So that would have been a little bit better. Because then it's so up in the air. The way it is right now, it isn't up in the air.
Exactly.
You're gonna take somebody who's completely against you and take their vote and make it go with you. So I'd rather it still be like a gamble. I'd rather it be like a crapshoot.
And I guess I would say I kind of like that because that kind of goes with why hidden immunity idols work so well. Because even though they can change the game, you got to play them at the right time. If not, they're useless. And in a way, having the jury member do it, it's also a crapshoot. Alex, you want to jump in real quick?
I think the things that you're saying about how it's a twist that you can't really plan for, and it's sort of random and screws with the integrity of the game. I feel like that's what people were saying about the tribe swap back in Season 3. It's the kind of thing where I appreciate that they're throwing things at the wall, and they seem to be throwing things at a greater rate than they were a few seasons ago, and whatever sticks, and that'll be cool. And if it doesn't stick, then it probably wasn't a good idea.
But you have to admit, though, a season with a hidden immunity idol, a double vote, a vote steal, Exile Island, that would just be too much.
All at once, yes. You gotta pick and choose and arrange it like you gotta make a nice diorama of it. You can't just throw everything in a shoebox and call it art.
And I guess that's the thing is I'm seeing this more of them trying to make the shoebox, and you're seeing it more as just trial and error. Elise, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, well, I think it's just, with a twist like this, it could really shake up the game and make it seem unfair, or we could see it like Dan, where Steven's in the majority the entire time and it doesn't matter. But I wanted to say that I have more of an issue with how they gave out the advantage, because it was like, oh, you have to swim this far or whatever, whereas I think it would have been a lot more interesting if it's like, if you drop now or if you do something, because I know I'm not that strong a swimmer, so I wouldn't have even gone for it. I think that's why we only had 2, because as soon as you see Spencer and Steven in the water, it's like, well, I'm not gonna win.
Well, do you think that twist, though, of being able to steal someone's vote is equal to an immunity necklace? Because to me, if you're in a majority alliance, that twist is worth way more than any immunity necklace.
That's true.
And the whole purpose of these twists is to change up the majorities.
I think it only isn't worth as much if you're Joe, and you're probably gonna get all the votes against you if you do lose. For everyone else, in the majority, it probably made sense to go for it.
And does anyone want to tell me, why do you think Spencer and Steven went for it? I have no idea why those 2 specifically went for it.
They're super fans. They have to go for the advantage. They have to see what it is.
That's very fair. All right, so are we done talking? Right,
I was just going to say, I think Steven's been talking about making big moves and whatnot, that as soon as they said a twist in the game, he was practically off the platform anyways. So, I was just surprised Sierra didn't go for it, because she's another one who's been crying, big move.
And that's very fair. However, even though I am complaining a lot about this twist and I don't like it, I do think that when they go to vote out Steven, they'll go, well, let's probably do with an extra vote, so let's just make sure it's 7-2 or something like that, so it doesn't really matter. Anyways, let's move on. We did get other stuff going on this episode. Jack, Steven convinced Jeremy and Spencer to vote with him and the 3 girls to vote out Wigglesworth. How in the heck is this advantageous to Spencer or Jeremy's game? Because, in my mind, Sierra, Wentworth, and Abby, they're going to flip and work with, Keith, Kimmy. They're going to flip wherever they have to survive, and it seems very obvious they're going to do that. What were they thinking? What's going on with them?
Yeah, the Sierra, Kelly, Abby, they're just trying to latch on to whatever they can round by round to survive. And it seems that, I feel like that Jeremy, Steven, and Spencer, they could have, I think they, even for the next couple rounds, they would have been fine. I just feel like Steven was just itching to make a move. He's just been itching to do something to shake the game up, and he had this opportunity, and he was compelled beyond reasonable doubt to just go for it.
But I mean, I do think it's bad for his game, and I want Billy, I want to hear everyone's opinion on this. Is this actually bad for Steven in all their games? Because is Sierra really going to take Steven that far in the game if Sierra gets any type of power?
See, the question is pretty broad. I would narrow it down and say, is it bad for Steven? Is it bad for Jeremy? Is it bad for Spencer?
I think it's bad for all of them, though, personally.
I think it's great for Steven. I think it's great for Steven because he would have never beat Joe. He would have never beaten Wigglesworth. And he won't even beat Jeremy. So at some point, he's going to have to, stick it to Jeremy. And who better than the 3 witches? then he only had to do is beat one of the 3 witches at the final immunity challenge. So that's where I think he's going with it. I think it was Jeremy and Spencer who this doesn't work out for.
And you know what? I will say you've changed my mind a little bit. Alex, go ahead.
On the one hand, there's something to be said for making the move this early versus waiting a couple rounds, but the real thing I have to grasp about is why Wigglesworth? Because we've been talking about Joe's similarity to Ozzy, and here's another one, because this feels to me like nothing so much as the way Elise went out in Survivor South Pacific. That you don't, like, you have a target in mind, but you take the next best thing rather than holding your cards, trying to make your target feel comfortable, and then getting rid of them when it's actually time. By weakening them, you just alienate Joe and further destabilize things.
And
Well, I think.
go ahead,
Go
Billy.
ahead. I was just gonna say, I think once they made this move, they're locked in that it's all in against Joe. It's 6 against Joe. So I think once this move was made, it was not just a move like, all right, Wigglesworth is a threat. I think they're saying, all right, Wigglesworth and Joe are together. Let's get rid of one and then get rid of the other.
And I do agree with you. I think, and I mean, does anyone honestly think that if next week Joe doesn't win immunity, he's gone?
Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. And in fact, I was actually going to bring up my fan theory on what's going to happen, because before the finale, we are going to have 2 episodes in which 2 people leave. We're going to have a night where it's 2 episodes back to back, and we're going to have a double boot episode. And I'll talk about who's probably leaving during those episodes and why a little bit later. But I guess what I want to know is, Elise, why in the world would Abby and Sierra and Wentworth go, yeah, I want to be in a final 6 with Jeremy and Spencer? That's great. They're way too smart to deal with that.
They just need anything that they can right now. I think you just have to get rid of someone in that 8, get the numbers, because the smaller the numbers are and the more the 8 fight amongst themselves, the more valuable they are. Maybe next week Joe will be like, hey, I really want to stay, and I really think we should get out Jeremy or Steven or whatever.
Well, and actually, I want to say, I guess I misspoke, because to me, I'm speaking from Jeremy's point of view. Why would Jeremy go along with this when, in reality, it does seem so obvious that, Abby and Sierra and Wentworth would never want to work with them, even up to the final 6. I just don't know what the hell Jeremy and Spencer were thinking tonight.
Colin,
Jeremy...
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, at least I was just going to say, I think if Jeremy didn't have 2 idols, it'd have been a no, but because he has 2 idols, it was a, well, all right.
Yeah.
I like
What do you
that.
think?
That makes a little bit more sense, because I think that's what we're all going to be talking about tomorrow, what we're going to hear on Rob's podcast and all that good stuff. And Elise, did you want to finish?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think he's a lot more comfortable just going with his number 1 ally, Steven, when he has 2 idols in his pocket. He can afford to take a little bit of risk there now.
And
Spencer, I'm less sure, but...
so I think what we can kind of extrapolate from this, and this is what we do as superfans, and Billy, I want to hear your opinion, that Spencer probably has a final 2 deal with either Steven or Jeremy. Because I can see Spencer getting along with either one of those 2, and we were even given that confessional of Jeremy saying how much he likes Spencer. So maybe there's a final 2 deal that we just haven't seen yet.
Yeah, there might be a final 3 deal that convinced Spencer and Jeremy, but I don't expect Steven to hold to it. I think Steven is totally planning to sit next to Abby, and then we'll see which one of the other 2 girls are the bigger goat. But I don't see Steven like playing the loyalty game at all. That hasn't been what he's done at any point of the season so far. So why would he start now?
Very fair. And I kind of just had like that thing where your brain makes all those clicky noises and you think what's going to happen. Actually, I want to talk to Alex first before I bring up the double boot episodes. Go ahead, Alex.
All right, the thing I just realized is that if we look at it from the perspective of we have 3 factions, we have Witch's Coven, we have Jeremy, Spencer, and Steven, and then we have 5 other people. That's 6 versus 5. That may be what expedited the decision to go against that 5 immediately, because they're thinking, if we get rid of a Witch's Coven, then if that 5 takes over, all we can do is tie.
Okay, and that does seem to provide a little bit more logic. I don't know, maybe from an editing standpoint, we were led to believe that, like, Kimmy, Keith were actually closer to Jeremy and Spencer and all that stuff than they actually were. Do you think that's a possibility, Billy?
Oh, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Colin. And plus you got to give Jeremy and Spencer and Steven credit. You know, they're mid-school players. Well, at least Steven is a mid-school player, so they kind of still have an understanding that you have to at least be friendly with people so that it doesn't bite you in the butt later on. Mm-hmm. So I think they were just friendly, biding their time. And Steven, like everybody's been saying, he's been itching to make a move. And this seemed like the most logical juncture to make that move.
And while this might have been Steven's most logical, for him, this might have been his most logical move, right. I have to say, I am calling shenanigans. I want everyone to get your broomsticks out about Steven saying that there are no more alliances, that's only voting blocks. Because let's be frank here. Steven, Spencer, and Jeremy are voting together. That is an alliance. Wentworth, Abby, and Sierra are voting together. That is an alliance. The other people are voting together. That is somewhat of an alliance. Now, yes, alliances are way more fluid than they were, but I would argue that they're no less fluid than they were in Cagayan. And Jeff Probst wasn't saying, "Oh my God, the game is changing" after every single vote in Cagayan. And everyone raised their hands. I'm going to go to Alex first, and then I want to hear from Jack.
All right. I think somebody on the internet pointed out that when Steven talks about how, you know, the game is like it's never been before, he sounds like he's trying to sell his podcast.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
So there's that going on, and it's the kind of thing where even if saying there's no hierarchy, for example, is BS, because even if everyone has a deal with everyone else, some of those deals mean more than others, and it is the player's responsibility to suss that out. And if there are no deals, there are still people who get along better with others, and it is the player's responsibility to suss that out. So there is a hierarchy, even if it hasn't been formed yet. It's still there, it's potential.
Exactly. And then, Jack, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think that point about, like, no more alliances, only voting blocks, I don't know if this is what he means, but in actuality, I think it's just the alliances are getting a lot smaller. There's no more 8 people, there's no more 6 or 7 people alliances. It's the Jeremy, Steven, Spencer alliance is teaming up with the Witches Coven. Like, they're teaming up to vote together this one round or the next 2 because it's in their best interest. But I think these huge groups sticking together for a long period of time, or at least saying they're going to, it's out the window with his veteran players.
Well, exactly, and that's what I wanted to harp on the most is that, yes, this season they might be doing that, but that's because there's so many pre-existing relationships. Survivor, you know, whatever it is next season, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 6-person alliance picks off a 4-person alliance. Elise, go ahead.
I'd almost argue that he's saying this because there are so many alliances, like lots of 2-people alliances, lots of pre-game alliances. There's just so much going on that you don't know which alliances are going to stick and which ones are going to fall apart. I think that's what he should be meaning by more fluid. Or it could be like that thing on Big Brother where everyone's like, this is going to be the greatest season ever. Everyone's going to love us because we're so smart. So, well, time will tell which one's more accurate.
And Billy, did you want to chime in on this again?
Sure. Yeah, I was just thinking to myself right now, this whole voting block versus alliance, to me is like is a leopard furry or is it spotted? Like, what are we really saying here? We're saying the same thing.
That's very fair. Difference. That's very fair. I guess what I would say is, if it's me being persnickety about the language, is that a voting block implies that every single round, people just start all over again. And what I'm saying is that no. Clearly, every single round, Jeremy and Steven are having a conversation along with Spencer. Every single round, Abby, Wentworth, and Sierra are having a conversation. So that's kind of what I guess is upsetting me. But, I mean, can we blame Steven for hyping up the season when in reality he is just the poet we've all said he is?
Colin, if you were on the season, you'd try to hype it up.
If I'm on the season, I'm going to give the best confessionals ever, and CBS should know that. So, I wanted to make a couple quick notes as we started to kind of wind down everything. The first one is I wanted to say, if you have not seen the Ponderosa videos of Cass and Savage, you have to see them. They're fantastic. I'm not going to spoil the ending of the Savage Ponderosa video, but it's adorable and it made me happy. Right? Everyone agree with that?
Yeah,
Well,
totally.
Alex and
I'll
Billy
have to
does.
see.
All right, Jack hasn't done his homework yet. It's okay. He won't be on next week, so don't worry about it. And I guess what I want to say is Jeremy going to win this game? Because right now, to me, the edit is so obviously pointing to yes. Or is it a fake out? What do y'all think about this as one of the last points of conversation?
Two words. James Clement.
That's fair.
They both have 2 kills.
Yeah. I think this season has been a great showing how the producers have mastered the art of the foreshadow of fooling people into not seeing the crash and burn happen.
That's
Like
true. And because I mean, Varner is a great example of that. We all love Varner.
Yeah.
Thought he was going to win. Rest in peace, Varner. But that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Alex, you want to jump in?
I don't think Jeremy is the only one getting a clear winners edit. I think there are at least 2 others, and if you expand it to non-conventional winners edits, there's 2 others on top of that. So there's still a lot of doubt and a lot of game left to be played.
Now, Elise, okay, I'll let you speak before I rant about the double episodes coming up.
Okay. Yeah, well, I just wanted to say that I think it's a lot more likely that Jeremy gets, like, he'll only use 1 idol, and then he'll get to Final 5. He can't use the idols anymore, Final 4, and then he'll get booted then. He'll get taken out before he can make a case at Final Tribal.
That does seem very realistic. And like I said multiple times this episode, we do have 2 episodes that are kind of special coming up. And Alex, you said next week it's going to be 2 episodes in a row we're saying?
I do believe so.
Okay.
I think someone said week 10 will be the double episode.
Which that's kind of funny because it's right before Thanksgiving, but who cares about your family when we got Survivor time? I think, and my philosophy on this was that Wigglesworth and Keith would be the 2 people that left the game during this time period because they're the ones that are getting the less screen time. But I'm actually thinking we're going to see a Kimmy boot maybe next week, and then possibly sometime after that quickly, kind of like the episode when they brought out 2 people in 1 hour, is going to be when we see Joe leave. Because they've already foreshadowed so much that, when Joe doesn't win immunity, he's gone. Feel free to, argue with that statement or not. But to me, that just seems the most logical in terms of the edits. But then again, I also thought it was going to be Wigglesworth up until tonight, so...
Yeah, I see Joe going within the next 2 or 3 boots for sure. Because I don't see him being able to keep the winning streak going. It's pretty hard to do, especially when there are puzzles involved, which towards the end there always are. Mm-hmm. As for Kimmy, I don't know. I can't see like two obvious boots happening within a 3 boot period. So I see like 2 blind sides and then Joe.
And I could see that happening too because this season's been so crazy. It's been hard for me to lock anything down. And I want all the listeners out there to understand this. I did pick Vetus as the winner of this season, so you don't really have to listen to me for anything I say. I've kind of lost all credibility. Now, before we wrap things up, are there any final thoughts? Is there anything we missed that anyone wants to talk about tonight?
I'll just say I'll make a shocking prediction.
Okay.
I think Spencer's gonna win it all.
Okay. Billy Garcia says Spencer's gonna win it all. But in all fairness, Billy, you also said Terry Dietz was gonna win it all. Is that correct?
I did, but
Okay.
he did. If he wouldn't have had a family emergency, he wouldn't have went when he went. Who knows how long he'd have been there.
And that's very fair, and that's very fair. So I want to thank Jack. I want to thank. Oh, Alex, you have something to say? Go ahead.
Yeah. From this episode forward, Wentworth is going to be called by her last name by Jeff because she's a great player and she deserves it, not just because there's another Kelly on the cast, and I think that's the way it should be.
We will talk about that later because I actually kind of disagree because she only made 1 correct autoplay and that's all she's done. Anyways, I am going to wrap things up. I want to thank Jack for joining us. I want to thank Alex for joining us. I want to thank the beautiful and super Canadian Elise for joining us. But most importantly, I want to thank you, Billy Garcia, for joining us because you always bring in such a great crowd and you always have such great insight. So, Survivor Season 33, we're going to have, the chicken and the glowy blue water, and that's who this podcast is dedicated to. It's the Idol Chicken. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I want to wish you all a wonderful evening. Bye.